small, and we have a small kiosk.
Okay.
Is this the address of it right here? 705?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So the kiosk, we do like about 30,000. Half of it is cigarette. And we bought it a year ago. So what I was trying to make the point was that the other group should have reached out to all the retailers, say, hey, we're bringing this ordinance, and we want, since we're meeting with the city, we're telling our point, you guys should come tell your point.
Sure.
So they never did that, because if the city would have heard our point, maybe they would not put this in the agenda.
Yeah, actually, I think that this was more than 6 months ago, because
It was
I've never seen it since I've been on council, but I've been on council only since January, so I don't know.
Yeah, when we had the hearing,
It was early on. We
it was early on, yeah.
September of last year.
Oh yeah, so I wasn't on council at the time.
Right.
Maybe a month or 45 days thereafter, this came about.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So I told them, if you would have told this to people and they were aware, then I wouldn't be buying this site, because if I knew the license it won't be transferable, then it would, would make a difference.
Sure. No, actually, Ezra, are you the one who did that analysis on it? Okay, so Ezra, you're lucky, because Ezra actually has done a lot of research on this very topic.
Yeah.
And actually, it's going to be heard tomorrow.
Exactly.
No.
So they never told us. So when I met with them, I was the only one that actually showed up.
So the issue is, when we were going to acquire our business, and you've been there for quite a while, we were not aware of this ordinance because it wasn't on the table. Nobody knew about it.
Sure.
And so when we did our evaluation, everything seemed good.
Sure.
We pay a certain amount for business value, which includes sales, majority of which comes from cigarettes. So when that is all of a sudden taken away, it adversely and drastically affects the value of businesses. Yeah. And it's just such a one-sided. And our perspective is, and I'm sure you probably have the same mindset, is that retailers who comply and don't sell to minors should not be penalized for a few that did.
Sure.
And again, there's a big impact on our business if that sales is taken away.
And what happened on the other note is that I think few of the city have done this, and what they do is they grandfather those businesses that already have it. So, which means that any new businesses will come, the ordinance will affect them, not the people like Pat that's been there 30-something.
Did you fill out an intake form too?
Pardon me?
Did you fill out an intake form too?
No, he wasn't. He just got here, so he came up.
So maybe when Max comes back, you can fill one of these out too. Just we need it for legal reasons.
So, from my standpoint on this one.
Max? Can you give Pat a intake form?
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, go ahead.
So my stance on it, I think that the reason why we're creating these type of ordinances is the bottom line is we don't want youth to smoke cigarettes. Mm-hmm. I don't want my kid to.
Sure.
I don't want other kids to.
Sure.
I think part of that comes from being a responsible tobacco seller.
Sure.
Or retailer. I see some parts of this ordinance that they do make some sense.
Sure.
But there's some of the stuff that doesn't. What we're doing is we're taking this ordinance that really was written by a group that, quite frankly, they don't want to sell any tobacco. And I think the bottom line is I think history's proven it. That's not, we can't just eliminate tobacco sales. The other thing is, I don't think we're giving proper time we just this last year, we changed the smoking age from 18 to 21. So we're really not having a fair amount of time to see how this affects youth smoking. I know in this city, my daughter went to school in Atherton, so, but she could have gone to school at Palo Alto.
Do you live in Palo Alto?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I live in Menlo Park, but
okay.
We have a place here in Palo Alto as well.
Okay.
So, I think in our city, the youth smoking is just not as big an issue as it is in some places. And I think that that the other thing that we're facing with this, if you look at our city and where the tobacco is being sold, tobacco's not being retailed at grocery stores. It generally gets retailed in convenience stores. That's where most people are going to buy tobacco. Convenience stores, 7-Eleven. We don't have any convenience stores with gas stations in Palo Alto, and that's something that I believe is an antiquated program for our city to begin with. You know, we adopted that ordinance many years ago, and the city at that time, 30-something, 40 years ago, Palo Alto just did not want to have a quote from a city council member many years ago was, we just don't, in Palo Alto, we don't want to have those Sunnyvale style 24-hour convenience stores. So the gasoline retailing business is we only are allowed 120 square feet to sell anything right now. So you're taking a very large chunk out of that retail environment for gas stations. And I'll give you, for instance, if I lose my license or he changes his ownership and he loses his license, the way this thing is written, you're going to get sites that are going to be lost every 500 square feet or something that's near a school. And a lot of these schools, there's schools popping up all over the place. We got charter schools. We got, for me personally, I've got the Jewish Community Center across the street. I think what the other thing that this is going to impact in the city, it's going to impact traffic. I mean, people are going to drive in. People come off the freeway. Oh, can I get a pack of cigarettes? They pull in. The modern gas stations now, they are made. You look everywhere else, they're built these big, beautiful convenience stores, car wash, and gas. They're not building auto repair and gas stations anymore. So I think that, from a bigger picture of the city, I think they really need to reevaluate the convenience store ordinance to go along with gas stations. But as far as this one goes, we're seeing other cities, cutting to the chase, we're seeing other cities, what they're doing is they are grandfathering in the existing. So basically what you do is everybody gets a license. And I believe in the licenses, so we pay a fee for it. I don't have a problem with that. That money then goes towards policing. I believe that there needs to be more undercover stings. We get them almost never. I have other locations. We get them a lot more. It just kind of depends on who's overseeing that. The program that I adopted with my employees, because it can get confusing to employees. It's a lot easier now because it's not 18, it's 21. The people look a lot different, age-wise. And the other thing that we adopted is we adopted a scanner. So if anybody looks 35 or younger, my employees are instructed to ask for their ID and they scan their ID. It's not a how do they read their ID or anything. If your ID does not scan, you don't get cigarettes. If you don't have an ID, you don't get cigarettes. So I really believe from a standpoint of the city to help with traffic mitigation, to not penalize businesses, the net value of my business. I believe that grandfathering in these locations, or at bare minimum, just saying gas stations should be exempt from this, because our footprint is so small that for our sales, it takes a big chunk from it. And you can require that you run the undercover stings. If somebody's guilty of selling cigarettes to an underage, they pay a penalty, they get put on probation. If it happens again, they remove their license. I mean, if I can speak for myself, I don't know how other people run their business. So the bottom line for me personally is I don't want my kid to smoke cigarettes. I don't want them to drink alcohol, and I don't want them to smoke dope. So
we don't want them for other kids either.
Well, and that's what I mean when I'm saying that. I mean for my own family. I mean it for anybody. And I think that as we're really looking at tobacco use, and he may have a lot more input if you've done the research on it. You know, what are you finding with tobacco use in high school in Palo Alto?
I only really looked at the legislative item this week, and I think I agree with you on a lot of the points of it. So I actually wrote some questions to the staff, and one of which was how it affects small businesses, because I think that's one of the big weaknesses of the item, and they didn't really give a response. They said that it would negatively affect small businesses, and that's it. So I do agree with you on that. In terms of like tobacco sales, I haven't done that much research on that.
So, but you're a young guy. Are you in high school or college or
High school.
High school. So you're right. You go to Palo. You're Gun.
I go to Gun.
Okay. So you are living in our community. You know, give me some input. I mean, when I was growing up here, we had demographics. We had Smoker Hill. You know, we did have youth that was smoking cigarettes, but we're talking 35 years ago. So in your school, do you see, you know, an issue with kids smoking cigarettes?
Not really. No, not at all.
No.
Kids today are smart. I don't see kids
especially
smoking.
here, you know. And I think that you know, I get where groups are really trying to remove tobacco from California, but it's just, I mean, it's been proven over history. It's just, we're not going to completely remove it. And if you got a 45 or 50 or 60-year-old guy that's been smoking his whole life, that's part of his recreation, you know. And if he's smoking in his own home or smoking where it's not affecting other people. And I think the smoking population has learned that what's acceptable and what's not. People don't want to smell it. So I think that this ordinance is getting really, it was hammered to the city as part of this American Cancer Program. So I think from a city standpoint is we can adopt an ordinance that gets the seal of approval from the American Heart and Lung, or the big organization that's pressing this. We get the approval that we're a clean city. We don't smoke in parks, public places. And I think that if you were to just allow to be able to grant, I think the simple solution, because this thing is pretty much on the books, it's going to be tough to get it removed. And trying to get the whole thing removed doesn't make sense because there's a lot of good parts of it. But I think that the simplest way would just be for our city is just to for now, just have everybody go out and get a license. Those are the sites that are able to be licensed.
No new licenses.
No new licenses, and just grandfather in those existing businesses. You know, so that if I decide to retire a couple of years from now, and let's say I want to give my business to my child, I'm technically that's licenses under my name. If I want to pass this business on to my kid, she can't go get a new license. So, and there are a lot of people that have paid quite a bit of money for these sites, you know.
Well, if you want to sell, you're going to
that's
lose
the same
value.
thing. I mean,
he built this business 35 years, and all of a sudden he wants to sell it. He has to get it cut because they try to sell this as for minors and kids. And if most cities, like the high-end cities like Palo Alto, Menlo Park, San Mateo, the minors' percentage is so little that they smoke. Whereas you go other cities like Oakland, Stockton, minors age group is much larger in those cities that they smoke. And this city, and they're using kids to get this ordinance passed. And there aren't that many kids in Palo Alto, the parents wouldn't allow them to smoke. So, and most of the customers we get, we barely had any kids come try to use a fake ID to buy a cigarette.
Yes, we're I've got a site in Redwood City. It's a little bit more prevalent over there, but it's got a Latino demographics. It's a little bit, it's a different area, but that area is changing rapidly. So I'm seeing the demographics change in that location drastically. my Palo Alto site. I mean, like I said, I've been here my whole life, 55 years. So I think that the other item that's on that program that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but things are always a give and take. They're always, one of them is the removal of flavored tobacco, menthol. I'm just going to say that unfortunately, when you are removing, I understand that they think that the youth is attracted to, menthol cigarettes. I don't believe that. I believe that demographics are attracted to menthol cigarettes. If you look at that area of tobacco sales, it's for lack of a better term, they're generally African American. That is the type of cigarettes that they like to smoke. They like menthol. They like coolers. Those are the brands that they smoke. The flavored cigars, quite frankly, they're stuffing them with dope. So if a kid's smoking dope, I think the bigger problem is the smoking dope part, not the. But again, this thing has gone through the city. It's like, it's been on there for quite some time, and I don't see it getting removed. So for us, that category, if you remove the flavored tobacco, like I said, you still are going to have people that are going to come in, and they're going to say, "Oh, you don't sell tobacco," so they're going to be shopping in Mountain View, or they're going to be shopping in Menlo Park or Redwood City. So
create more traffic.
Yeah, but honestly, that category, I mean, I can tell you, my Redwood City site, I sell way more of that product. In Palo Alto, I hardly sell any of it. So even if you have that on there, from my business standpoint, it's not going to overly affect me. But I will say, from the traffic standpoint, the customers that I do have that come in, now they're not going to be buying my gas. They may not be shopping at other businesses in Palo Alto because a lot of times for people that are smokers, it's an addiction. They're following a traffic pattern based upon their buying a pack of cigarettes every day. I never get somebody that comes in and buys a carton of cigarettes. They buy a pack at a time. So smokers, it's part of their ritual. They go, "Oh, I'm going to go get my pack of cigarettes." And so if you're saying, "Oh, you can't buy them in Palo Alto," that's going to be, his traffic pattern is going to be, "Oh, I'll drive to Mountain View, or I'll drive to a neighboring city." So
would you rather see, let's say, a increased tax on tobacco versus a ban?
Look, I don't have a problem with the increased tax. If the increased tax is, I never have a problem with the tax if the tax is going towards what people say it's going towards. I'm all in favor. We're as a society, we are running a deficit. We are going to have to tax more on all accounts. Just say a tax is for something and use the money for what it was said to be used for. The problem I have with taxes is when somebody says, "Oh, let's tax tobacco, but we're going to use that tax for, I don't know, something that has nothing to do with tobacco." So a lot of times when you read these we got a big, huge tax that went on tobacco. It did not change anybody from smoking. Yeah,
we just had a $2 increase.
So it didn't change the smoker. It's just, technically, that's a tax. It's just it's targeting a small group, and they're addicted to it. They're going to keep paying for it. So
what if there was another $2 tax
in the city? Mm-hmm. I think that you would run into the same. If you made it that high of a tax, I think that what you would end up with is you would really press those people out of the city purchasing any tobacco. Again, they're going to change their traffic patterns. A $2 tax, you're throwing an extra. So where I believe these things are like $8.50 a tax. So you're throwing an extra, 30-something percent on it.
Is it $8.50 a pack with the current tax?
Yeah.
So that $2 just came on a few months ago. So if you add another $2, but like you say, if you come up with something minimum, and it's just for the city use for whatever, I don't see it.
I've heard, he may disagree with me, and I might have a lot of other business owners that would disagree with me, but I believe that you should, if we're trying to generate revenue to combat this problem in our city, and that really depends, that's policing, that's public awareness, that's all the common things that we found help to keep you from smoking cigarettes. Whether it's bringing somebody into the high school to tell them about it, or more important, maybe junior high, just to have a conversation about it. But that could cross over into not doing any kind of drugs. It all fits in that same category as far as I'm concerned. I believe that you should charge if you have certain sites in Palo Alto that are selling cigarettes, charge for the permit. Okay, whatever, make it a number. I mean, but at least that allows if we're at, because if you put a tax on the cigarette, then that doesn't allow me to manage that category, if you follow what I'm saying. If you charged me a permit fee, and maybe it's not super inexpensive.
How much revenue do you guys do tobacco right now?
So that site in Palo Alto does, that category does about 10, I'm going to use round numbers. So it does about $10,000 a month in cigarettes. Yeah. So about $10,000. Now that particular category, from a gross profit standpoint, because every time these taxes come in, that category over the last 2 decades has gone from it's always been a low margin category, but it used to be around 22%. That category currently is down at about 10%. So
I guess of that $8.50 per pack, how much of that is taxes?
Oh, well, we got a $2.50. I'm guessing that you're probably about pretty close to $5.
$5 of the $8.50.
Yeah, so it's 50 to 65% of it is taxed.
Okay.
So if the city were to impose, like I said, I think that's in a technicality standpoint, we're just going to do the exact same thing. We're going to force tobacco sales out of the city of Palo Alto, and if that's the ultimate goal, that the city just says we don't want anybody to smoke in our cigarettes in our city, and we don't want anyone to buy them in our city, then this will work pretty well at that. I mean, if that's the ultimate goal. But I think along with that, you are going to be losing on other sides. You're going to be losing from the small business standpoint. It's going to be affecting small businesses. The other thing that you're going to find is as we keep hammering on these gas stations in Palo Alto, they're going away. Sure. I mean, I see it up and down.
Actually, just across you, why is gas in Palo Alto so much more expensive than everywhere else?
I'd say several different reasons.
I mean, is in my imagination, is that
no,
true?
You're absolutely
not much different.
Well, if you drive this corridor right here, this El Camino corridor, yes. Because the reason why I believe it is because you are not, because of the fact that we don't allow gas stations to sell food, you are restricting that business model. It's not the business model in Palo Alto has not been able to grow.
So why don't we allow you guys to sell?
It's an antiquated. We are allowed by the city ordinance. We're allowed 120 square feet for food sales. So the city has kind of overlooked that, and what everybody's done is they've taken their waiting room, which used to be your auto repair waiting room, and they've converted that into food. From a standpoint of 120 square feet, I mean, you're talking about something that's the size of this desk. So I think every site in Palo Alto is slightly over. But Palo Alto said, hey, that's okay. But we're not going to permit you guys to build a modern convenience store.
Which is about 2,500 square feet to 3,000.
Yeah. So what you're seeing is if you, I'll give you for instance, if you go up El Camino, you see that there's a brand new Shell station in I believe he's in Redwood City, okay, and he owns one on Embarcadero. He's building these loops. He's building one in Sunnyvale. He's building one in Redwood City. They are a beautiful site. They have a car wash. They have, I think it's about 1,500 square feet of food sales. Brand new modern canopies. Brand new dispensers.
Sure.
People go in there by droves. He's also very competitive on his pricing.
He makes some money on the market, so he could bring the price down on the gas.
I see.
And that's how that business model functions.
Okay.
As far as auto repair, that's what I started out doing. Gas stations are not made to do auto repair on a modern car. It's an old school building. That when those buildings were designed to do auto repair, we had a little box about this big with all the diagnostic tools we needed. A little multimeter,
Sure.
a little ohm tester. We could fix everything. We were setting points on a car. A modern auto repair facility, if that's going to be profitable, really needs to be a 5-bay garage. The sites aren't even big enough to hold the equipment you need. So these guys that are doing it up and down here, they're still stuck in that auto repair, and sure, they're making a go of it, but they're not. Compared to how valuable that site would be if it had a brand new convenience store and car wash on it, and some of these properties are big enough to do it. So what ends up happening is, because they're not allowed to do that, is you're losing sites. The gas stations, that dirt is becoming more valuable as that 3-story office building. And I know the city, that's kind of a thing that's buzz that I've heard lately is they don't want to have more office space. They like more retail. It generates tax revenue.
Yeah.
So I think that.
Well, let me ask you this: What if let's say this tobacco thing goes through tomorrow, that you guys got rights to do food in a bigger way? What would that do for your business?
I think it would help, but I still think that disallowing tobacco. I think that because the city's boxing themselves in with a convenience store. So somebody to build a modern convenience store, it's number one, you're not going to get beer and wine in Palo Alto. That's not going to happen. I mean, the modern convenience store it's a one-stop shop, meaning people are so pressed for time, they want to be able to fill up with gas, go in and get their snacks or groceries or a sandwich or some food, their pack of cigarettes, maybe their 6-pack of beer, they're on their way home. That's what has built the modern convenience store. Is because of that need. It's filling that need. So
when you touch the cigarette, I will get less traffic coming to my station to buy gas. So
5 minutes.
So it keeps cutting in our revenue. It's just not going to be all we got. I'm going to lose 10,000. I'm going to lose on my gas and everything else, because that person comes by a cigarette, he buys gas, he picks up a candy, he picks up a drink, so everything comes out, and our businesses generate so much tax revenue on the gasoline, on the grocery. For the city, we paid so much taxes compared to other smaller businesses like a restaurant. They only pay X amount on their sales, because our revenue, because of the gas, it's so much higher. We pay a lot more. We pay at least, each gas station pays at least 10 times more than a little grocery store or a little
Ezra,
retail store.
Have you heard any complaints on this ordinance at all? Have you gotten any? Yeah, email the complaints.
I mean, most emails are from Max.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and what happened is, group that they brought this up, they kept it hidden. They didn't advertise it. They just came to you, the council, and they say, "Hey, this is a good idea. Let's do it." They didn't reach out to these people.
no, I think if my customers,
Yeah. How many emails have you gotten this topic?
Actually, about 5.
5. And what have you
Yeah,
said?
and 2 of the people I responded to did not reply back to me.
Well, what was it in terms of pros and cons? How many people wanted it? How many people didn't?
Was it the retailer that responded to you, or?
But what I wanted to echo is what he mentioned is, if this is the off-the-goals to get rid of cigarettes, it's not fair to disguise it for selling to underage, because there's other measures, like maybe all stations can scan ID.
We do.
Or
It
police.
all comes out.
Well, I mean, this
And
one,
if you don't, there's severe consequences.
one aspect of the city right now, and this is why I was asking about taxes, because the city itself could use more revenue. Right? We're barely breaking even. We're losing money. Okay, so that's what I'm asking about.
So do you want me to? So you want me to tell you how I can just tell you because I know I've spoken to the guy who builds the loops and
I don't know what we put.
so it's those Shell stations.
Uh-huh.
They call it's his own design for his convenience store. And if you
It's
try
a
to
name like 7-Eleven,
Oh,
like
it's like
a Chevron Extra Mile.
I go to Costco a lot, so I happen to gas at your guys' gas station
Yeah.
all the time. So I know both your stations really well because I go there all the time. In fact, that's where I gas my car most of the time. Is at both of your stations. But
So I think from a standpoint from the city,
Uh-huh.
I think if we're cutting to the chase on the revenue side.
Uh-huh.
The bottom line is this. I believe that if you guys adopt this ordinance the way it is, without the simplest thing is just to keep the ordinance the way it is and just have everybody go get their permit, charge a fee for that, and then allow
what if it was a $10,000 fee?
$1,000 fee. I don't think you're gonna
One guy was the leader of the American Petroleum and Convenience Store Association.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
And he wants to delete the flavored tobacco ban. He wants to amend section 4.64.030 to comply with California state law that exempts active duty military from age 21 and add a grandfather provision under that section that will allow existing tobacco retailers within 500 feet of another retailer, 1,000 feet from a school, to sell through an arm's length transaction to new owners. So that's what he wants.
This way, it's for the 5 emails. Like
This is actually it's actually only been 3.
only 3.
Mike and then 2 other people. And then there's another guy named Amar Johal. He works at the 7-Eleven Palo Alto. And you want to read it?
Oh no, just summary. We're running out of time here,
Yeah.
so. We
So-
have 3 minutes left. Then.
Yeah, he says-
So real quick from that, and I'd like to have this conversation with you in more detail. The quickest way I think for this, I mean, if you guys are trying to generate retail in the city of Palo Alto,
Yeah, that we are trying to do.
yes. So I think from a simplistic standpoint, I think that what he was asking for, the petroleum marketers, that's
he doesn't
just-
like the tobacco. He doesn't like the flavored tobacco ban.
that is the simplest way to adopt this ordinance without boxing you guys in from a city standpoint. And then secondly, if you guys would be from a city standpoint, would be to at some point address the situation on the ordinance that gas stations cannot sell food. Okay.
Is there a explicit ban on that? Or
It is.
just-
If you're not, you're allowed. The way it reads is you can only have 100. If you sell gasoline, you can only have 120 square feet of food sales. So that technically removes the convenience store. If you adopt this ordinance the way it is, you're going to buy it, and you guys want to go back later and say, listen, that was an old rule. We need convenience stores. They're going to help with traffic. They're going to give us retail sales. They're going to give us tax revenue.
When did this ban happen?
Oh, this is, I've been here, like I said, this is a 30-year-old ban. I was trying to get a convenience store 25 years ago. So the city had looked at this very closely when they were doing a redevelopment project on my area over there. And at the time, based upon the neighborhood and petitions and everything, the general plan had included giving me an option to do a convenience store. And at the 11th hour, the city council said, listen, we're not going to give him the option.
What year?
I want to say it's about 8 years ago. 6 to 8 years ago. So at that time, what the city council did at the 11th hour, they went against what the planning department wanted, because I was pushing for a convenience store. And they said, listen, we need to address this item separately as a citywide situation. So I think from a citywide situation, I think you guys should look at getting rid of that C-store ban, allowing gas stations to sell food. But if you remove the tobacco aspect of that, the city is going to be handling itself.
You will lose so much money, not just from the cigarette, tax revenue for other stuff we sell, especially gasoline. So if you're trying to create income,
Well,
you will go way.
I find 90% of the gas stations both of your maybe more, maybe 100% right. But I've never bought anything off the asking guys.
Yeah,
that's
Right.
it.
We have those customers. What I'm trying to tell you, if your city is done making has a financial problem, putting this ordinance, you'll lose not just on cigarette. If it was just only cigarette, you say, oh, we're not gonna do that 100,000 less. We would lose on taxes we get on the cigarette. So your income would come down so much by putting this ordinance.
Okay,
But
guys.
$8 at top $10,000 a month, you can see how many customers actually do buy cigarettes while they gas.
If you keep grandfathering and, for example, add $1,000 or $500 a year for the new licenses, you could use that income to hire an educator, go to high school, junior high,
You only have 1 minute left. So
telling people not to smoke.
What kind of permit fee do you think would work?
So what is proposed permit fee right now?
That's right.
The proposed
Year one digitalized.
What is the city proposing as a permit fee when we go sign up for a permit by July, I believe, of 2018?
I'll check it.
He was the one who did the legislative analysis on it. So.
Was there an exact fee in the item? I think. Let me check. I didn't remember seeing one.
I think we just paid the State Board of Equalization for getting our tobacco license. If city wants to charge.
No, so originally the original one from the State Board of Equalization was free. They just started charging.
So if you're saying that you think a 10,000 a year permit fee would not work?
No, because
if you put like a 500 or $1,000.
So if I do 10,000 in sales and it's a 10% category, you take it
Hold
all.
on, once a year.
No, what I'm saying is I do a $10,000 sales a month, and it's a 10% category. So I make that whole category for the year. I make $12,000 on that category.
Sure.
If you're going to take 10,000 of it, I
So
think.
what if you got a convenience store?
I think that if you were to do a convenience store and you had a one-time permit fee when you permit the convenience store, I think that those fees would be more in line. I think 10,000 is I think that is an exorbitant number.
500, maybe $500, something like that.
I would say, like I said, I think that whatever this, because you've got to go back to the city. You're trying to get these other guys to buy into this idea, right?
Okay.
So
we're a little bit out of time here.
why don't we do? Here's a thought process. Whatever their proposed fee was.
Wait, is it annual permit fee?
Uh-huh.
I think it's saying it's currently $340 and $425 respectively.
Okay. So double it. Go to the other council members and say, listen, for right now, let's just
grandfather these guys and tell them every year.
Remove, just like that guy said, the tobacco guy. Remove the menthol thing. Allow active military to buy. I mean, that one's a no-brainer. I mean, if you got a kid gonna pick up a weapon in a foreign country for our country, he should be able to buy a pack of cigarettes. But at any rate, no, just follow state law.
Yeah.
And state law says that they should be able to with active military. So that one, the flavor ban, remove that, and just grandfather in the existing ones and double or triple the permit fee.
Okay.
I mean, if it was less than $1,500 or less, and I think that I'm still able to make money. I'm not giving away all my profits, and you guys are getting 3 times the permit fee.
And you could use that to educate kids.
Finally, bring up the fact that if the city really wants to address having convenience stores, because I don't think any of the council members know about this.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
just learning about it now.
If we want convenience stores in our city, if you pass this ordinance, you're going to be handcuffing yourself in the future.
Okay, guys, we're out of time. So
I appreciate
Thank you very much for coming.
You can still fill this out.
Oh, you bet.
This is another that I
Thank you.
gave to the mayor when we met.
Okay.
I made a copy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Thank you. What is the date there?
It is the 17th.
Can you try something?
Do you know of any of the other council members that are leaning one way or the other?
No, I have not talked to anyone else about it. You guys are the only ones that come in.
I'm meeting with